Hello everyone, from the Gamer Guy here again. This is my Overcoming Depression and Anxiety secular video, which just basically means it's not going to include spiritual topics. I'm going to start out by giving the disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a college graduate, and I have no degrees or special training certificates. Now, before doing these things that I suggest, should you decide to do any of them, I left a few notes here. These activities that I'm going to recommend or suggest may cause emotions that you don't normally experience, haven't for a long time, to arise, as well as may cause new and never before emotions you've never experienced before to kind of arise. I want to say that I would say don't be alarmed by these things, like don't startle you necessarily, but kind of let them show you, who you, I guess as it says in the text here, who you are. But it kind of, there's a bit more to it than that. Like you kind of gotta sense the context of what you're doing and why you might be feeling that emotion. Usually it's easy to kind of figure out. A lot of cases it might not be, but that's still, just kind of, let it flow. That's how I would summarize that. And I'll also say learning who you currently are is definitely the best way to change for the better in order to overcome depression, anxiety, and mental obstacles. So it's like learning kind of like who you are, currently. It's kind of like, there's a foundation here. There's, obviously it might be, plagued with that, the depression or the anxiety, but you gotta kind of, find out who you are and where you stand. Like think of it as, if depression and anxiety were completely gone, what would be left? Like what's there, and that might, I guess that might sound a little bad in some light or way, but because honestly, like depression and anxiety, those things will take away everything that you are in a lot of cases. But I don't think I need to further explain that, though. I'm sure you understand. And I would say, consider the things that I'm going to recommend or suggest, giving priority to the ones which you believe will help you the most, or as they would, relate to your life or experiences, and then exploring the other ones after that. However, if you're on the fence, you can't decide, which one you want to jump into first. I would say I have generally kind of arranged these things in a bit of a order of what I would say is priority. I've used that term loosely. But the two kind of like main categories here that I created was things you can do right now and things you can do when you are able to or if you can afford to. And then obviously the second one of those is less important than the first. So let's kind of get into it here. So what you can do right now, even while you're sitting in your chair, standing at your stand-up desk, wherever you're at. The first thing I recommend is to begin practicing looking at your own thoughts and rejecting the negative, harmful, and unproductive ones. The best way to start doing that, in my experience, is to just kind of like be still. Like try and find, I know it's not always possible depending on where you're at, where you live, but try to find a quiet place, like a place where you can just sit down or lay down and be still, and then start just every thought that starts to come into your mind or, whatever, just push it out, like refuse it, reject it, decline it, push it out, delete it, every thought. And you'll start to realize that through doing that, it helps you be better able to kind of exist in the present, stop thinking about what happened in the past or what could happen in the future, and as a result of that, it sort of helps you worry less or regret things less. And those two things are like some of the major sort of stoking the fire type things that make depression and anxiety much worse than they may have originally started out to be. So, I guess I would just summarize it as, clearing your mind. And I continue here in these notes. This includes thoughts about what's around you, what you're feeling emotionally, physically, the temperature, memories, and so on. If you start to think about, there's a desk in front of me, or a cat's nearby, stuff like that. Just don't think about anything, and do that for as long as you feel the need to, or as long as you feel that it benefits you, and just be in the present. Just kind of start to push out all the. And I say start out by refusing or pushing out all thoughts, because that helps you look at your thoughts. When a new one comes in, it's not like it's joining in a sea of thoughts, or a ton of other thoughts that are in your mind already, because you've been pushing those thoughts out, and have kind of made the conscious effort or decision to exist in the present. So when a new thought comes in, you're much, much better able to look at it from an outside perspective, in a sense. I mean, I get it's still in your mind, and you're thinking about it. You're thinking about your thought, essentially. Which also on that topic, I would say there can be thoughts come in your mind about your thoughts, which can be negative or positive. Sort of like a secondary perspective, but you have to kind of realize that it's your mind is almost like, I don't really want to compare it to this for a few reasons, but you kind of think of it as like a computer system, and the thoughts that come onto it are applications you're allowing to run, or whatever. You kind of have to be the administrator that determines how that operating system runs, how it determines which programs are potentially a threat, or are helpful or good at removing threats, and all that sort of stuff. So in a way, I feel like that is relatable. But I would say the first thing I would do, clear your mind of all thoughts, then start looking at your thoughts from kind of a self-aware, self-conscious kind of perspective, and then decide based on how you would, this kind of sounds funny, but how you would think those thoughts would affect you if you accepted them and you adopted them. So for example, let's say you get a thought that you think I'm a failure because someone or maybe many people told you that in the past, and it's a memory that keeps coming back to you, and you've sort of adopted that because you weren't succeeding at things you really wanted to in life, or because you didn't do this, or because when that thought comes in, you can say, well, no, there's no way that thought can benefit me in any sort of productive way, or in any sort of way that would help me. So you can just push it out, like the thoughts that you were pushing out in the first place. But then you get a thought that comes in that says, what is my full potential? I would say that would be a thought I would accept and I would consider. And then, continue to look at the thoughts that come in after that. And a lot of times, what I've noticed from doing this myself, a lot of initial thoughts are just the beginning of a chain of thoughts. So not only do you benefit so much more than what you would maybe initially realize by pushing out the negative thoughts as soon as they come into your mind, but the beneficial thoughts, like, what's my full potential, that can lead to much more productive thoughts into, questioning what you're truly capable of and testing your limits, as far as that goes. And then you can, as more thoughts enter your mind, you can decide, how or which way you would want to drive that thing, because your mind is a pretty powerful thing. You can direct the narrative of your thoughts to what you would want it to be. Although part of what I'm trying to do with these videos too is to help you understand, how to do that in a way that helps you overcome depression and anxiety. So one of those things I talk about next here in the notes I have: start replacing all the thoughts you recognize as negative or not contributing to any sort of feelings of joy, inspiration, motivation, or love. And so tell yourself things like, I got this, life is beautiful. Like start telling yourself that, life is worth appreciating. Like, not the things that you necessarily experience in life or whatever, but just having, like the ability to live, that sort of thing. So, another thing I want to talk about here is, generally avoid adopting thoughts that are just anti-negative or, rather than positive or encouraging naturally. So thoughts like, I'm not bad or I'm not a loser, you're still, if you accept those thoughts, while it still may encourage you in some way, it's still putting that thought into your mind that, there was some sort of perspective of you being bad or being a loser, whatever, that would, that might allow that thought, the initial thought, or the negative thought to have a hold on, future thoughts that enter your mind and that you adopt. So I would say, also reject those kinds of thoughts. But, there's some that can be good, because there's also kind of like a tone to your thoughts that you get. Like, a lot of your thoughts that you get, they're in your own voice, because that's probably the voice that you've heard the most in your life, and stuff like that. So, I would say there's somewhere, like, if you get the thought, like, I'm not a failure, or I'm not going to fail, in some ways that can, if it's really kind of in a more bold, positive context, that can encourage you more than a lot of the more subtle positive thoughts. But that's I guess that kind of sums up how I would look at and consider which thoughts to adopt. The next thing I'm going to recommend, that you can do right now where you're at, use slow, deep breathing methods to help center yourself, reduce or relieve anxiety, or to help refresh your mindset. Many of these methods are described online, and follow-along videos exist as well. There are many, sorts of videos on YouTube to go over this, and they'll have like a step-by-step or follow-along sort of context to them, where you can just, do what they're telling you to do as the video progresses, and you'll kind of see how that helps you, like, in a way, just kind of relax. It's much better for, I would say it's much better if anxiety is more of a problem for you rather than depression. However, it can be good for both, because it's something I would use in combination with my first suggestion of beginning to practice looking at your thoughts, and rejecting the negative ones. So you can kind of look into those breathing methods. I would say, just like slow and deep breathing methods would be best, because like shallow breathing, it doesn't really oxygenate your cells. The more oxygen they get, the better, with the exception of like hyperventilating or whatever. But that's not really going to be a thing as long as you're doing it in a slow kind of method. So the next thing, this, I feel like a lot of people might think, oh, I already know to do that or whatever, but like showering and bathing, like that's, and there's more that goes into this, which I'm gonna cover now, but like just kind of like refreshing yourself and like staying clean and stuff like that, like in general, that's typically a mood booster for a lot of people. So I kind of go over here, even if you already did that day, I would recommend it too. if the effects of your depression or anxiety is getting worse, in most cases, not only would it not hurt to take an additional shower or bath unless unless you're really struggling to pay the water bill or something like that, but it would not only, not hurt to do that, but potentially help you with dealing with, the feelings of depression or anxiety as they kind of come about and intensify and whatnot. So I also say here, being in water, hot or cold, helps keep your body hydrated, clean, and depending on whether it's hot or cold water, can have certain other health benefits too. And the first type here I'm going to talk about, which a lot of people don't really know about because, they think cold water, I wouldn't want to get in that, that's uncomfortable, which I will say I've done it a lot myself, and at first it's definitely, and this never gets old, I guess, as far as, continuing to take cold showers and baths, but, getting in the water at first is always rough, or especially if the shower, the water's running on you, it's constantly, hitting you, so I would say, try and push through that if you can. I mean, unless you have, you're really high risk for a heart attack or something like that, and it would maybe trigger that, but for the most part, I would say cold showers and baths, in general, have a lot more health benefits than hot ones, but there's benefits to both, and reasons why you would want to do one over the other. So the cold showers and baths, it increases, after you get out, or even while you're, in the bath or shower, it increases your alertness and your mental clarity, helps with weight loss in the way that your body burns calories trying to warm itself up, and it also helps produce brown fat in your body, which is the good type of fat, which helps burn, the bad types of fat, and I believe, I could be wrong, a quick Google search would confirm this, but I believe it helps speed up your metabolism too, and is related to that in some way. But so it helps with weight loss, which being overweight is also one of the major contributing factors, at least for me in my life, to how bad depression and anxiety would get at times. I would look at my body, I would say, this is terrible, and I still don't look great, or whatever, I'm still overweight, still need to lose more, but losing weight is definitely a mood booster. I mean, as long as you're overweight in the first place, or, you need to lose weight. So, the next few bits of benefits here for cold showers and baths, it does ease stress. It kind of, in addition to, increasing your alertness and mental clarity, it's almost like if you have a fog in your mind because of, the negative stuff, or you don't have much clarity, it sort of gets rid of that fog a little bit, and in that way, it eases, stress that might be on your mind. It also helps to relieve less severe states of depression and can reduce more severe ones. I'm not really sure, where this originates or why this happens, but when I first started taking cold showers and cold baths, it did improve my ability to kind of deal with depression, so there's a bit to be said there. It does help you stay cool on hot days, so if it's super hot outside and you're struggling to keep your house or room or whatever cool with air conditioning or fans, taking I would say even an ice cold bath. A lot of people might think, oh, you're gonna get hypothermia, but no, it's if you stay in there way too long, 5 hours maybe, but in my experience, even when I just had the cold water turned on in the bathtub and laid in it until my body literally warmed up the bathtub, I didn't feel like that was even close to being a thing. Obviously there's cases where that can happen, especially if it's too cold water or too cold of temperature of the water, but that you can find, the safe temperatures as far as that goes online. But and also when it comes to cold exposure in general, there's a guy called Wim Hof that some of you may have heard. I believe his name is spelled W-I-M, and the last name H-O-F or H-O-F-F. You can find him on YouTube. He talks a lot about cold exposure, swimming in ice cold water, and all sorts of stuff like that for extended periods of time. And there's a plethora of information that you can discover with that. So I would recommend that if that does interest you in that sense. But again, it helps you stay cool on hot days, and it also builds your resistance to extreme cold temperatures. So I would also recommend, like, in general, if your winters where you're at, if they get really cold and you don't like being cold or being affected by it, and this kind of might sound counterproductive, but taking extended durations of like cold baths, or doing one like once a night or once every other morning, or whatever, it definitely, I noticed myself, it kind of built up my resistance to cold temperatures. So onto the hot showers and hot baths. Helps you fall asleep, because it also relieves muscle tension and helps you relax in general. So when I get to the next point here of when and how often I recommend these things, especially if you're really like, I want to make it clear that all of these things I'm suggesting and the way that I'm suggesting them is with the context of dealing with and kind of overcoming depression and anxiety. Though, in general, a lot of these things are good, even if you don't suffer from those things. But for the context of these videos, and if you're suffering from depression or anxiety, the ways that I would recommend on this topic, the hot and cold showers, I would say the cold showers or baths would be best in the morning to start your day, because they increase your alertness, your mental clarity. They kind of like set your mind a little bit better for tackling the day. And then the hot ones obviously would be better for at night or before bed, but I would also say I would suggest doing both once a day. Like when you wake up, I would suggest a cold shower or bath, unless you really can't handle cold water, cold temperatures, stuff like that. But otherwise, if you can't handle cold water, or you just really don't want to do it, I would still recommend replacing that cold shower bath in the morning with a hot one, so you're getting 2 in a day. But I would suggest doing both once a day, where you get a cold shower bath in the morning, hot shower bath in at night, because that's going to help you go to sleep at night. It's gonna help you stay clean by doing that multiple times a day. So like even you take a cold shower or bath, you go to work, you get sweaty, you get dirty, whatever. Before you go to bed, you take a hot shower or bath. It relaxes you, it cleans you up, and you're ready for the next day. Which, if you really don't feel like you need, the additional cold shower or whatever in the morning, because you took the hot shower at night, that's fine. And again, at the end of this sentence here, I have in my notes, as needed. But I would say, at the very least, if I were to try and to just combat depression and anxiety myself, I would do both of those once a day. Okay, so the next topic here is really kind of something that I myself didn't realize would help me as much as it would at first, but cleaning up anything around where you live, especially if you've been putting it off. So, it's, let me continue reading this, actually. So I worded it here. Take out the trash, do the laundry, wash dishes, vacuum, and so on. Obviously, those things aren't fun, but most often we feel good after doing them. So, in addition to that, leaving messes, garbage, empty bottles, empty cans, dirty dishes, and so on around. As my notes say here, they can not only encourage pests, mold, or bacteria to form and gather, but can negatively and subtly affect your mood. So, if you're doing stuff at your computer, but you have, like 5 empty pop cans or water bottles just hanging out, that's kind of, it's going to, you may not like think of it in the forefront of your mind. It's kind of going to be there. It's a thing that is physically present nearby that enters your mind as a result of that alone, and it you'll end up thinking from time to time, I gotta take that out later. I really don't feel like it. I don't want to, whatever. But the longer that kind of sits, the worse that it gets because you add more stuff to it or whatever. It continues to. It's kind of like a negative thought, in general. It just festers until you get rid of it, or until you decide not to believe it anymore. In the case of the thought, but cleaning up messes. That's just cleaning up in general, like around your living space. That will greatly improve your mood, I would say, and your I guess kind of your attitude as a result of that. Because again, it does kind of subtly kind of seep into your mind without you realizing it. Even if it's not a thought by itself, but it's just there. So. And I don't think that's really one of those things that you would be able to deal with by my first suggestion, where I say begin looking at your thoughts and rejecting negative thoughts by pushing out all thoughts. Even if you push out all your thoughts, even if you do it with your eyes closed, as soon as you open your eyes, that mess is going to be there again. So I would say that's probably one of the I guess as it's numbered here, one of the top 4 things I would do right away to begin improving yourself and to begin overcoming depression and anxiety. And number 5 here is something I really struggled with for a long time myself, because there's a lot of things that I knew, these things aren't really good for me, they're not really healthy, whatever. But I continued to do them, and sure, eventually I should completely cut those things out of my life and stop doing them. I would beat myself over the fact that I did it again, even though, I kind of told myself that I wouldn't, or that I shouldn't, or, whatever. Kind of like I have here in my notes, we all change at a different pace. And another thing that I kind of just thought of now, that the pace at which we change improves. And I don't want to say just change in general, the pace at which we change for the better. That pace improves and accelerates the better we are able to do that. So, if we... I don't think there's really ever a point we should be content with the pace at which we're changing unless we literally can't improve the pace, but exponentially increasing the productivity of your life and the improvement of your health and your mentality and all that, there's nothing but good things that can come out of that. So, the next thing I'm going to go over here, the things you can do kind of online, specifically with videos, I guess, which is why I put YouTube, but there's a lot of this stuff on YouTube. Healing frequency music, that's a good topic. A lot of these videos will have spiritual stuff or whatever in the descriptions, but it definitely helps. And while I use the word music in this, and that's actually probably a term you should use to search for it, I wouldn't look at this, because for a while, I didn't look into things like this, or do things like this, because when I thought of the word music, I'm like, oh, well, my favorite genres are, rock, or electronic music, or whatever. If it's not that, I probably won't enjoy it. Don't look at it from that perspective, because it's not really about, those things. Well, those things can be good, and I'm not, discouraging anyone from being a music producer or whatever, but, those things don't address depression and anxiety, in the way that I think that, as good as I think, healing frequency music would, or does, at least for me, because, those things that kind of give you a temporary, entertainment fix, or, whatever, they make you feel good while you're listening to it, but there's healing frequency musics out there that, like as it suggests, there's certain frequencies that you'll listen to. It's just kind of like a humming or whatever that you listen to, and because of the frequency, which frequencies do affect us quite a bit, because our bodies are a lot of our bodies are water or fluid, and frequencies affect that quite a bit. And you can look up videos on YouTube of someone putting like a hose over a speaker and pouring water out of the hose, and they play a certain frequency on that speaker, and it looks like the water is going in a reverse spiral back up into the hose. That's kind of like a small glimpse into how much frequencies affect our bodies and our minds. But healing frequency music has helped me a lot of times where I just needed to, maybe I was on edge because I hadn't slept, or something frustrating happened in life or whatever. I just find whatever healing frequency music video on YouTube that had like the frequency appropriate to address what I was feeling. Whatever I could find as far as that goes, and that would just kind of turn up the volume a bit so it kind of be in my ears more and affect me a little bit more, and I kind of sit still, kind of close my eyes and just listen to it and just kind of take a step back, and that kind of thing can, it's not only good for that, it's good for anytime you just want to sort of maybe even meditate or whatever, but if you just want to slow things down in your mind, those things are almost always great for that. The next thing I recommend here is listening to soundscapes you enjoy. This is not a thing. This is a thing a lot of people don't really seem to. I guess there's a lot of attention to this already, but I feel like it would help a lot of people. There's things on YouTube like thunderstorm videos where you just listen to it, lightning and thunder, and rain, and then there's also ones where it's just a gentle night rain. But then there's also ones, where you're at the beach, you hear the waves crashing and stuff like that. There's ones with a busy train station, a crackling fireplace, a pirate ship on the ocean where you can hear it creaking and whatever. There's all sorts of stuff like that out there. So whatever you think that would kind of help you, maybe center yourself or whatever the most, just kind of search for that, look for that on YouTube, and listen to that. There's also the suggestion here, which I guess this kind of, reveals a bit about the methods through which, I continue to use myself. Because the next one, this next one is kind of like a big thing in that, I guess I'll just read it. Reach out to people you can contact, even if you don't know them, to genuinely encourage or say something good about them, with that being the only intention. So, when you do this, just think of it more as, I'm going to improve somebody else's day because, I have time to do it, or whatever, which I feel like a lot of people have time to do this with, the pandemic or whatever, but you can, maybe there's someone in your phone contacts that you haven't talked to in a long time. You just want to say, hey, I hope you're having an awesome weekend. I hope you're having an awesome week, or whatever, stuff like that. Just encourage people, and I would say do it genuinely. Don't do it because you feel like you have to, or because you feel like it'll come back to you eventually. Don't do it for those reasons. Just do it to make somebody else's day better. And the reason why this is on here is because while most of the time, it's not gonna come back to you, or it's not going to positively benefit you or your life in any way, at the very least, even if it doesn't come back to you in any way, you made someone else's day better. So let's say somebody else, was watching this video and they decided to do that, and they reach out to you, and they say, "Hey, just thinking of you. I hope you have a great day." That, if everybody did this, like everybody in the world did this, like I feel like depression would be much less of a thing. But it's one of the reasons why I'm kind of suggesting it here, and also because I've personally found it to be helpful in. I mean, yeah, it's helped me like deal with my own depression and anxiety in the past, but it's also helped me, help other people deal with those things. So it's always good. Like, when I further elaborate here, this may include online, a text message, a phone call, your next door neighbor, people in your own house, and so on. And I also want to make it clear, you should be prepared to apologize if they take it the wrong way. I know this can feel really kind of crappy and may end up kind of maybe, I guess, eventually worsening your depression or anxiety. But in my experience, if you can kind of think about it in a way where you can word what you're saying so that person doesn't take it negatively. And really, that's the only way they're going to take it the wrong way, is if they take it negatively. So, and also, I would say to avoid, having people take it the wrong way, keep it simple. Like, keep it just like, hey, have an awesome day, just thinking of you, have a great day. If you start to go into detail and make it a bit more personal, that leaves more room for them to misinterpret what you mean, especially if, they have some sort of thought about you that sitting in the back of their mind or whatever. I don't really want to talk about that too much, because that can kind of make, maybe make people worry, hey, what's this person thinking about me? That's not what I'm trying to do at all here. But it can happen. Like, people can take it the wrong way. I've noticed it happening before myself when I was, just trying to encourage somebody, and I apologize. I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, offend you or whatever. Like, I was just trying to. Well, I don't even try to like explain it in a way that it makes it seem like it's about what I'm trying to do. But like, I would end it in a way where I would say, either way, have a good day. Like, that would be how I would end it if they took it the wrong way after apologizing. But as I point out here, and I think I kind of talked about it before, the main reason for doing this, and pretty much like, this is really like the only reason you should think of for doing this initially. You will most likely improve that person's day, helping them if they are also struggling with anything in their life, really, because encouragement is good. Not a reason for doing this. What can happen as a result, the person returns the love. That's not why you should do it at all. I typically, personally don't encourage people to support me in any way. I just tell them, like, hey, I'm here if you need me, like that sort of thing. So, I'm getting into these less important things, because they're more whether or not, if you're able to do these things or if you can afford to do these things. But I would not do any of these things before doing the previous things that I just talked about. Although the first one is pretty important, adjusting the foods that you buy and the things that you put into your body to strategically improve your health. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a nutritionist, whatever. But I'm pretty sure, with internet access, which I'm sure you have because you're watching this video, that you can find that information out for yourself. You can also find out, what sorts of foods or supplements or whatever might help your specific health conditions or whatever, but I'll leave that for you guys to explore. But I would say either way, it's very important to adjust those things in a way that you understand would most help improve your health, because your physical health does play a big role into how your mental health ends up being, which I kind of touched on a little bit before with, being overweight. That for me, that was a big thing for a long time. But yeah, that's I guess that kind of summarizes the food topic there. And then lighting for your bedroom or house. So, there's many LEDs, color changing ball lights, cube lights, and so on online. A lot of these things are on Amazon. There's like these sphere lights and cube lights that you can get that you can decide which color to change it to and all that sort of stuff. Lights can have a big effect on your mood. Natural white light, like basically it's like light from the sun, is I guess how I would describe that. As well as many different colors of light, which kind of have different effects here. So each color or type of light has its own effects on your mood. In general, blue is usually best, like when it comes to your mood. It helps you feel calm, it helps you feel centered and relaxed and serene. However, if it's getting late at night and you're going to need to, get some sleep soon because you have work in the morning, blue will probably prevent that. It will probably, maybe not prevent, but make it more difficult for you to fall asleep, which in a lot of cases can worsen depression and anxiety and stuff like that. So I would say, maybe it's kind of counterproductive to mention the two things, because having light is, lighting in your house or room is more beneficial at night, because then, it kind of shines on things more and whatnot. But I would recommend these things. I guess I just thought of this too. I would recommend these, the lighting suggestions here, more or less if you kind of live in a darker house or there's less windows or whatever, stuff like that. So I feel like those things would help you more in those situations. So you could use them in the morning, in the noon, and afternoon, stuff like that. Or just in general in the evening before it's not too late or whatever. But so when it comes to helping you sleep, I would recommend the Himalayan salt lamps. There's a lot of these all over the place online. Even if you don't want to use Amazon, there's plenty of places you can buy them from. They help purify the air, soothe allergies, and boost your mood. They kind of have when I've had them in my room before, they kind of had this calming effect. It was just sort of it's like when you're at the beach, you've been hanging out all day at the beach, and then the sun starts setting. It's kind of like a similar light or feeling that you get to that. It's just kind of like it kind of calms you a bit, in a way. At least it does for me. That's what I was saying. Okay, and these last two suggestions really are. I use the term suggestion kind of loosely because obviously, if you don't want a pet or pets are not, either not allowed where you live or whatever. There's many situations where you obviously wouldn't do these things, but the first one I'm going to go over, which is the one I have the most experience with because I have my own pet, a cat. I would recommend, and I'm going to preface this with, if you are not going to be able to have a lot of time to dedicate to spending with the cat, to, kind of training the cat a bit and, just loving it and giving it attention, that's kind of where that the whole thing comes into play, where people just think cats are jerks, and that's kind of like a big meme online and stuff and all that. But the two cats that I've had in my lifetime that I was responsible for, I kind of just smothered them in love, and they weren't jerks. They didn't they would get playful and frisky sometimes, but they never would just randomly destroy stuff or attack me or other people. They were always very friendly towards other people. They would and whenever someone new comes around, my cat's hey, what's going on? She'll come over and smell them and see what they're all about and stuff. So and I also want to say, this is all in the context of helping you deal with and overcome depression and anxiety. So, in this instance, I would recommend only getting one cat, and not multiple ones. And I will say, there's a little bit of a debate that can be made, or an argument that could be made for having two so they can kind of play together. but I still would recommend in this context one cat, because that'll allow you to kind of build a stronger bond, with your new companion or your companion that you already have or whatever. But when your cat wants to, show some love or be friendly, they go to you. They don't. Well, and I'm gonna say too, like other types of, other species of pets and whatnot. It's fine if you already have those, but again, I recommend these things too in regards to a cat only if you. So the things I say here, the reasons why, I wouldn't recommend this if you don't like cats, if you might not treat one well, or just, you wouldn't treat a pet well in general, or your living situation is not suitable for a cat, or for the cat to, thrive and be happy. Because they can, and I'm going to get into this now, the health benefits of having a cat, which I don't really feel is really talked about too much in general, on social media and whatnot, but there's multiple ways that can help improve your mood, your mental health, and even your physical health. A lot of people might think, this is a bit of a myth or whatever, but it's easy to find out with, searching online. One of these health benefits that cats can provide you with physically is the frequency of their purring, which, I talked about frequencies previously, is that it helps heal bones, tendons, and muscles. And I think one of the ways the one website I looked at described it was they help improve bone density, which is, I guess, would be a form of healing them. They also help reduce stress and anxiety, which, even just petting a cat, like, they're soft or whatever, like they feel good to pet, and, they'll typically kind of react to that in a very positive way, and all that stuff. So, and they also, as anyone who uses the internet is probably familiar with, they tend to have silly or entertaining behavior, which, in the past, for me, with, the two cats that I've had, they definitely entertained me at times. They made me laugh at times, and all sorts of stuff like that. There were times where, like, oh, you're so cute, like, that's all I could think. And I do mention here, there's a little bit of pros and cons, more pros, I would say, in this context of dealing with depression and anxiety. They give you company and are often cuddlers. They'll, if you're laying in bed, falling asleep, a lot of times they'll lay with you or on you. They're easy to care for. You just set up the food dish, the water dish, and the litter box. And then, I would say keep up on maintaining those things. As I mentioned before, they are pleasant, to pet or to watch. Petting them is a way that can help reduce your anxiety. And I also want to mention, too, if you're expecting to be able to train them a lot, that's probably not going to happen unless you're very experienced or whatever at it. But while they are very trainable, they're much less trainable than other pets like dogs, so they won't always come to you and call them or whatever, unless maybe you kind of have treats for them or whatever. And these next things that I want to mention is like recommendations, things that I think are really important to think about or know. If you do get a cat, for after getting a cat, consider or like even if you're just considering it, always be nice and loving towards them. Like anytime you're like, there's a lot of times where people will scare their cats because they think it's funny. Even though like the reason why that's bad is because they'll eventually get aggressive if you do that. I've kind of looked into it a bit online. This is what other people have kind of come across and experienced. They get aggressive. They get kind of mean if you like scare them or whatever, or you're just not always being nice and loving towards them. That I also mentioned here, like I mentioned earlier, lack of either of these is why cats can become, the stereotypical, jerks or whatever, as some people kind of like to assume all cats are. I would also recommend avoid getting a cat that is feral. While they can be, good pets and stuff, that's more like for people that are equipped to handle those types of cats and, train them and stuff and adapt them to, human interactions. But in the context of these videos, like getting a cat that's, not feral is my kind of like a highly recommended thing to do. In addition to that, I would say avoid getting older cats unless they are well trained and loved already. Because, if they, like, the other thing too, I didn't think of putting my notes here, if you get an older cat, they're not really too used to you yet. Like, I would recommend trying to get a kitten or maybe, a younger cat that knows just, what's the term, like spayed or neutered or whatever, so that, they don't, it's not like that, like you just, you don't really have to worry about that anymore, but the next recommendations here, get the cat some toys. My cat, all the time, she'll like run around at night or randomly and be smacking her toys around and chasing them. Like my cat actually, she'll like hook a toy with her claw and then fling her paw around until the toy goes flying so she can chase it. And there's a lot of times like one of her toys will just land on my chair or on my lap and I'll just like throw it for her and so she can chase it. But cats do all sorts of things like that kind of will make your day better. Like, if, obviously within the context of being able to afford one and all that. But a cat tree placed by a window, as I have just to my right. Cats love looking out windows, and I guess on that topic, I would recommend keeping the cat indoors in general, because letting them go outside can lead to risks, like having them get attacked by other animals or hit by a car. There's all sorts of like stuff that can happen to a cat that lives outside. Cats are typically better at avoiding cars than other animals like squirrels or whatnot, but in general, I'd say try to keep the cat indoors. My cat personally stays, in one bedroom, and she's happy. She doesn't seem to mind it. She still seems to be able to be very happy and make my day. Anyways, so cat tree by the window, cat some toys. The toys don't really have to be, too crazy. Cats tend to play with different toys at different times, or, whatever. They'll alternate. I would say get some treats or wet food as well. Cats like those sorts of things, especially if they're kind of, used to reward the cat's accomplishments or desired behaviors, and stuff like that. So, I also added here, keep up litter box maintenance. That's definitely important, because if you don't, it kind of ties into the keeping things clean around where you live. Additionally, sweet talk or compliment your cat often in a pleasant, loving tone, saying things like "good kitty" or even "I love you," like stuff like that. Like just telling your cat stuff like that. It will help your cat understand your intentions toward your cat, and it'll improve your cat's mood as well. And these kind of things, these last few things, are very, very important when it comes to having a cat. Do your best to keep the cat healthy and happy. Get rid of fleas or parasites immediately, because these can not only make your cat miserable, but in severe cases become fatal to the cat. So, speaking of which, here's my kitty cat. And then the last thing here on the video I'm going to talk about is maybe getting a fish tank. But if you do that, I would highly recommend looking into caring for it, and caring for the fish in the tank. And also, if you do have a cat as well, the cat will most likely try to play with the fish. So, yeah, but watching fish swim around the fish tank can definitely help with anxiety as well. So, but those last two things, like pets, like that's kind of more controversial and stuff like that. But in my personal life, my cat has helped a lot. My two cats that I've had have helped a lot with dealing with and overcoming my depression and anxiety. So that's going to wrap up this video. I'm going to be leaving links to a good bit of the things I talked about here in the video description, and I will be going and working on the other one. So the other one's going to be the spiritual video, which I'm not going to go into any details on this one. This is the secular video, but I will be going off to work on that one, and I hope this video has helped you. I want to say, either way, I'm always willing to talk to people personally, like in direct messages and whatever, on Discord, on Twitter, like whatever, like message me if you're having a bad day, or if you're struggling with applying these things to your life in an effective way that maybe like you aren't getting as much benefit from it as you thought you would or whatever, and you want to ask me questions about it. Any questions, all that, either do it in, the video comments, I'll try to respond to as many as I can, or message me in Discord or on Twitter. So yeah, I'm always willing to talk to as many people as I can, as long as time allows for it. But yeah, I hope this video has helped you. If you have any questions, again, feel free, and I will see you guys later.